Identity, the Quest for Israel's Future by Emanuel Shahaf. Hello to you, Emanuel.
Hello, hello.
We've been talking for the last few interviews here regarding the situation, what is going to happen, perhaps in the Gaza Strip, etc. And you've been very, very precise in whatever you projected really happened in Gaza, and also the last encounter of the Israeli soldier that died. What is your perspective nowadays towards the near future?
Well, Gaza, for one thing, won't go away. It's going to remain a hotspot that has to be addressed long term, and it's not being addressed long term, so it'll remain a hotspot and it'll flare up any day, either yes or no, but the way it looks now, it will happen pretty soon again. And there are, of course, other hotspots which rise up. We have the issue with alAhmar, the Bedouin encampment in Judea.
For people around the world that are not really well acquainted with the alAhmar issue, please reveal a bit about who are the main players.
alAhmar is a Bedouin encampment in the Judean desert, which the army wants to, or the government wants to remove, because the area is for public purposes or for army training. I don't recall what the exact reason is, and they've been working at it for many, many years to do that. And the Palestinians, the local Palestinians, have used every method in their ability to prevent the removal of alAhmar, which has become an international issue. There are international legal aspects. The International Court in The Hague is looking at this, and it is clear to the government of Israel that removing alAhmar, not in an agreement with the local population, there will be a very heavy price to pay. And that's why, even though the government legally could already remove the settlement, they asked the Supreme Court for another sort of stay of execution, and the Supreme Court may give it to them or not, but it's a complicated issue, and the government knows it's a complicated issue.
What's the main complication in that issue that can also create fire in the region or ceasefire? What is the trigger?
The trigger is that the word behind which nobody mentions is Nakba. Okay, they're removing Palestinians from what they consider their land. Okay, and that's in every aspect where Israel removes Palestinians, whether it be in Sheikh Jarrah or whether it be in alAhmar or wherever. That's the context. Okay, the Palestinians feel that the Nakba never stopped. Okay, they're being removed there, they're being removed there, they're being removed. It doesn't make a difference whether it's legal or whether it's a thing, but that's the context. So it's a very problematic issue vis-a-vis the Palestinians, vis-a-vis the Palestinian Authority, vis-a-vis the Palestinians in Israel, and the government is encountering it every corner. It's encountering it here with alAhmar and also with Sheikh Jarrah, where we asked the U.S. government, or at least the Secretary of State, to put pressure on the Palestinians to accept the compromise that was proposed by the Supreme Court to the Palestinians. And the Palestinians have to decide in the next few weeks, I don't remember what the deadline is, whether they'll accept the compromise, which is not easy for them because they would give up ownership to the land, or whether they're not. And the government, since our government refuses to deal with this issue seriously,
in long-term perspective,
in a long-term perspective and in depth, because it's politically too complicated at this time, we're going to run into a problem pretty soon. Okay. And this can reflect, of course, on what goes on inside Israel in the mixed cities, and on what's going on in the West Bank. And this is coming at a time when the presidency of Abbas is coming to an end. So we're setting ourselves up for a very hot 2022.
And the last meeting of Benny Gantz, the first meeting of an Israeli minister with Abbas for so many years, more than 10 years. Do you think that people there in the Israeli government are understanding the point that you're emphasizing, that a dialogue should be part of the table?
Some of them certainly are. Some of the left and the center part of the government are of course aware that there has to be a dialogue, and I think they are in favor of the dialogue, and they support it. Some of them don't. The ones on the right, of course, don't. But it's really not. It's not material if they support it or not. The dialogue has to continue, and the less we maintain this dialogue, the more trouble we're going to have. So the government of Israel has to get its ass in gear, okay, so to speak. And I don't see that happening for the time being, which is sad.
We're talking about some of the parties and some of the ministers in the Israeli government that you've been in contact with are open to this kind of dialogue.
Sure.
When you're approaching and seeing, we're creating this interview a few days before the Jewish Rosh Hashanah, the New Year's Eve. When you're talking about identity, the quest for Israel's future, what is your perspective about the new coming year?
I think the next year will be pretty decisive in where Israel goes, and even this government, which is not, which has already declared that it's not looking for a political process with the Palestinians, will have to consider alternatives. Okay, I think it's I don't think the U.S. government, also not the Palestinians, and also the Europeans, the international community won't let this just go. We won't be able to continue in saying we're not dealing with it. It won't, and also what's happening on the ground won't permit us. All the problems will rise up every day, more or less, and so we will have to. The government will have to address a political process of the Palestinians, and it's always good to have an alternative. The federation that we are proposing is one of the alternatives, and it's definitely something that can be part of what the government should consider.
And while looking about your personal perspective of Emanuel Shahaf in this coming year, what is your main goal? What would you consider as part of the success of your journey?
If to get the federation on the agenda of some of the ministries in the government, I'll be happy if I'll get that done in the coming year. More than that, of course, would be welcome. But if a few selected ministers in the government have read it, have heard it, have discussed it with me, and are in a position to form an opinion, I think when that happens, there will also be some media coverage, which will also help along. So I think that's something to look forward to.
To create a dialogue with people that are in the Israeli government.
Yes, to create a dialogue and to put it on the table, that they talk among themselves also. Okay, so they know that something is there to be dealt with.
Emanuel Shahaf, and I want to thank you and to wish you a great year. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Identity, the quest for Israel's future. People that are listening to this interview and want to be part of it, part of the journey.
Facebook.
And to be part.
Yes.
Lecture, book on Amazon, and a direct dialogue with you.
Absolutely.
Emanuel Shahaf, thank you very much.
Thank you.